wouldn't be telling you what I'm willing to do, certainly. I'm not going to give up options, but it's very important. Greenland is very important for the national security, including of Denmark.
So first of all, Greenland belongs to its people. So it's up to Denmark and Greenland, and only to them, to decide on matters that are concerning Denmark and Greenland.
In Greenland, an autonomous territory of the Kingdom of Denmark, Europeans have a particular responsibility, because this territory belongs to the European Union and is also that of one of our NATO allies. Donald Trump has remained firm on his demand for Greenland, and Europe is now scrambling to cover all its bases as diplomacy stalls. European troops have reportedly begun moving into Greenland as talks with Trump hit a wall, signaling that allies are shifting from words to deterrence. Europe has kicked off what Denmark's defense minister called Operation Arctic Endurance, framing it as a new phase of readiness in the high north. Denmark and NATO allied troops will hold exercises in Greenland on a rotational basis, creating a steady military footprint rather than a one-off visit. Denmark's defense minister said these drills are meant to establish a permanent military presence, sending a signal that Greenland is not an undefended space. However, Defense Minister Troels Lund Poulsen declined to say whether the exercises were aimed at the United States, according to The Guardian, keeping the message diplomatically coded. Several European partners, including France, Germany, and the UK, have now started sending troops to Greenland, broadening the mission beyond Denmark alone. On January 15th, President Emmanuel Macron announced the arrival of French troops in Greenland as a show of support for Denmark, underscoring European unity. A 15-member French military contingent reached Greenland's capital Nuuk on January 15th, marking one of the first visible deployments under the new posture. Macron said the initial French team would soon be reinforced with additional land, air, and sea assets, signaling a larger follow-on presence. In Greenland, an autonomous territory of the Kingdom of Denmark, Europeans have a particular responsibility, because this territory belongs to the European Union and is also that of one of our NATO allies. France has decided to join the exercise that was scheduled and launched by Denmark in a sovereign and independent manner, as part of Arctic Endurance. A first team of French soldiers is already on site and will be reinforced in the coming days by land, air, and sea means. History does not forgive either unpreparedness or weakness. Our armed forces, and all our forces, including all support services in particular, are our life insurance. And nuclear deterrence, equally so, on which I will soon have the opportunity to speak again, is its keystone. All the efforts I have just mentioned, and those we will continue to make, contribute to making us ready and equal to the dangers. On January 14th, the foreign ministers of Denmark and Greenland held high-level talks at the White House, hoping to cool the standoff through direct engagement. Denmark and Greenland's top diplomats met U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance and Secretary of State Marco Rubio in Washington, D.C., in what was seen as an urgent damage control effort. European leaders later admitted they could not change Trump's stance on acquiring Greenland, suggesting the core U.S. demand remains unchanged. Denmark's foreign minister said there was a fundamental disagreement with the United States during the Washington talks, highlighting how far apart the sides remain. Meanwhile, Trump continued to insist the U.S. needs Greenland for national security, framing the island as strategic territory rather than a negotiating chip.
Well, I wouldn't be telling you what I'm willing to do, certainly. I'm not going to give up options, but it's very important. Greenland is very important for the national security, including of Denmark. And the problem is not a thing that Denmark can do about it if Russia or China wants to occupy Greenland. But there's everything we can do. You found that out last week with Venezuela. There's everything we can do about things such as that. Not going to happen. We're not, I can't rely on Denmark being able to fend themselves off. You know, they were talking about they put an extra dog, and they were serious about this. They put an extra dog sled there last month. They added a second dog sled. That's not going to do the trick.
We didn't manage to change the American position. It's clear that the president has this wish of conquering over Greenland. We made it very, very clear that this is not in the interest of the kingdom. There's a government in Greenland with support from 3/4 of the Greenlandic population. The premier made it very, very clear yesterday that Greenland, for the time being and for foreseeable future, will remain within the kingdom of Denmark. And therefore, this is a common position that we want to work with our American friends and allies, but it must be a respectful cooperation and it must respect the red lines.
Alarm bells are also ringing in Russia as NATO troops arrive in Greenland, because Moscow views new deployments in the Arctic as a shift in the balance. Russia's embassy in Belgium said the situation unfolding in the high latitudes is of serious concern, warning that militarization could accelerate. Moscow further claimed NATO is building presence in Greenland under a false pretext, suggesting the alliance is using Trump's crisis to justify expansion. Russia has also argued there is no threat to Greenland from Russia or China, rejecting Trump's claims and portraying the tension as politically manufactured.
$25 करोड़ गरीब गरीबी को परास्त करके बाहर निकले।
For the good of our nation, let's work together and let's truly make America great again.
The fastest news breaks.
Requested PM saying that look, you will have to speak to Putin and to Zelensky.
The biggest news makers.
The relationship with India is probably the most important bilateral relationship the US will have for the rest of this century.
The capital delivered quite an election result today.
Expert analysis.
The million-dollar question today is how to stop this dance of death.
Ground reports.
I'm standing at the crossroad of the Kumbh Mela. Behind me are more than 100 entry guards.
Long-form interviews.
Exclusionary politics is reflected in Manipur case as well. You don't bother because this is a small state.
Deep dive into burning issues.
It's often said DRC could be the richest country in the whole world. It's because of what sits underneath.
Why exactly did the US topple the Sheikh Hasina government?
HD videos. We don't just break news, we break it down.